Noam Chomsky is here. He is a political activist, he is a writer, and is a professor at MIT. He has written exclusively and lectured around the world on linguistics, philosophy, and politics. He is widely credited with having revolutionized modern linguistics. He is the author of numerous books, including American Power and the New Mandarins, and also 9/11. Here is Hegemony or Survival, his newest book. I am pleased to have him on this program for many reasons, including the fact that I get more emails about please have Mr. Chomsky on this program than anyone can ever imagine. How do you explain this phenomenal connection between you and certainly an audience of people who are user-friendly with the Internet?
Well, I think people who are, there's an enormous number of people who are involved in a informal, disorganized, activist, dissident culture, and they tend to make their own connections outside the major institutional channels, which are not hospitable to them. And the Internet has become a major form of interconnection, organizing, not just in the United States, everywhere. I mean, in South Korea, for example, they recently elected a president using the Internet for organizing and communication and getting around the strong opposition of the media and the concentrated power to the popular candidates. It happens to be a very wired-up society.
Well, it is. Broadband, I think, has a higher penetration in South Korea, perhaps more than any other country except Singapore.
But it's happened I mean, let's take, say, Indonesia. When the Suharto dictatorship was overthrown in 1998, a lot of the organizing, a lot of it was student activism, and it was a very harsh, brutal society, but they did succeed through Internet interconnections to organize political actions, demonstrations, other activities, and it was a major factor leading to the overthrow of the dictatorship.
Well, Howard Dean, I suspect, would say that one of the primary reasons he has been able to get to this commanding position in the Democratic race for the presidency is the Internet, allowing him both to communicate and to raise money.
Yeah. It's a sort of can also be a lethal instrument, but...
lethal in what way?
Well, I'm sure you get, I don't want to guess how many emails you get, but it can be overwhelming. Even a lot of material that one of the problems with the Internet, I mean, it's the good part of it is it's free and open.
Right, exactly.
But of course that has a downside. That means that things go up that have no review or support.
And they clog the system.
They clog the system, and so it's a mixture. But it certainly has been an extremely effective way of allowing people to participate actively in everything from industrial societies to very repressive societies. So take, say, the World Social Forum, which is a huge enterprise, 100,000 people last year. It's mostly Internet organized. There's just no other means of intercommunication among highly diverse people. Most of them are somewhat, out of the power centers in their own societies, and this provides them a means of organizing, exchanging information, interaction that gives them access to a far wider range of sources of information and analysis than they would get by picking up the newspapers at the newsstand, and that has major effect.
Do you think regimes around the world ought to be frightened of the possibilities of the Internet?
I'm sure they are, including our own government. Since the Internet was, like most modern technology, it came out of the state system.
Right.
We have a lot of the economy relies on a dynamic state sector. The Internet was developed in
the Pentagon or somewhere.
Well, it was actually places like MIT, but it came out of Pentagon funding and the Advanced Research Project Agency, the Pentagon, about in the early 60s.
Right.
And it remained inside the state system until the mid-90s. I think 1995 it was privatized. And since then, it's changed. I mean, before that, it was considered, in fact, it was called usually an information highway. After that, it's mostly called e-commerce.
Right.
And the character of it changed. But there has been a lot of concern in power centers all over the world that it's just too free and open. And the question is, how can you shape it and modify it so as to lead people in preferred directions, away from say, organizing the World Social Forum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what, for example, are the Chinese doing about it? Do you know?
In China, I think internet access is quite restricted.
That's what I thought.
And highly censored. I don't know how much even limited access there is, but it's a very hard medium to control.
Exactly.
You know, when people have access, they can do all sorts of things. So the means of controlling it that are being considered, as far as I understand, are mostly trying to lead people in particular directions. So that when you enter an internet portal, you know, you'll be sort of drawn off this way,
here, rather
that way,
okay.
And therefore you'll have the
rather than opening up, it'll take you somewhere.
And the idea is you'll have to use, you know, energy and initiative and commitment and know what you're looking for if you want to go in the directions less preferred by power centers, which is, it's a terrain of struggle right now. There's a lot of pressure from popular and activist groups to leave it entirely open, not controlled.
If this would be your last day on Earth.
Not that far from it.
Well, you're what, 75?
Yeah.
Would you like what's said about you to be your political arguments or your contribution to the theory of linguistics?
To say the honest truth, I really don't care.
You don't care?
I mean, I'd like to see people follow up on the things that are interesting and important and productive and forget about the things that were byways and mistakes and so on. But if my name is attached to it or not.
But what then would you characterize as most important in your judgment, if you were?
Well, I mean, I played a certain role in reshaping the fields concerned with human intellectual faculties, cognitive sciences, in particular linguistics. Some of it has been extremely productive. Not me, it's a cooperative enterprise. And that's often running on its own.
Right.
In the political domain, I would like to see people energized, participating, thinking for themselves, not subordinating themselves to systems of discipline and propaganda, either in the structure of life, and there's plenty of that, or in the doctrinal domains. So if people can come to use the capacities that they in fact have and the opportunities they in fact have to overcome systems of authority, illegitimate authority, domination, hierarchy, free themselves, think through issues for themselves, not the way they're taught to conform, and do something about it. That's the best legacy I can imagine.
As I said to you, and you said that, I know nothing about linguistics. One of many subjects I know nothing about, but especially linguistics. Is there one question in the air in that whole realm, though, that you would like most to know the answer to?
Well, like everyone, I have my own personal quirks. And yes, there are some questions which are
big, mega questions.
There are mega questions which are on the border of research. You can't really. They're a little beyond what you can study very much. You can pick away at them, but well, one kind of question, which is a sort of a personal obsession, is that if you look at any language is a biological system. Right. It's part of it's like our immune system or visual system, just something humans have. It's highly specific to humans. There don't seem to be any counterparts elsewhere in nature.
You're in New York because of our mutual friend Edward Said, who passed away a month or so ago, correct? Yeah, and you tell me just because you're here, your sense of what would you most want to say in appreciation of him?
Well, Edward was an old